Hello, my name is Stephen Weinmann, and I want to thank you and your team for the opportunity to talk on these two topics. This is a two-pronged presentation. With the first half, we focus on high-impact practices and how we can incorporate those into the Office of Residence Life. And I want to shift gears and focus on how we can help students foster resilience and excellence throughout their time in undergrad. This whole presentation is based on theory that I've learned in my time as a master's student, as well as directed towards the student population at Clayton State University. So without further ado, here is my presentation on high impact practices in residence life and helping students become resilient and excellent. So the purpose of this presentation is to answer the prompt that you all provided with me, which is how staff can influence student academic progression, community belonging, and as well as leading a team to develop resilience and excellence. So I broke this up into three parts. The first part being academic progression, which to me meant better grades, more class engagement, and more faculty and student engagement outside of the classroom. I then looked at community belonging, which to me meant more community engagement both on and off campus. And then finally, I looked at resilience and excellence, and I wanted to talk about how we can help students better manage the stresses they face in everyday life as college students. And with that, we're going to talk about the agenda, which are what are high impact practices and benefits. I have 3 recommended high impact practices that I think would be suitable for the Office of Residence Life. And then we'll talk about building resilience to the SAYS model, which is the model that I personally implement in my everyday work as a hall director. And I want to talk about how we can promote excellence within ourselves and within our students, and then do a little bit of summary. So what is a high impact practice? Well, George Koo, who founded these practices, describes it as educational practices based on research that provide benefits leading to greater student engagement in and out of the classroom, creating higher grade achievement, and increasing student retention among undergraduate students. Now, the 3 keys here are that it increases student engagement, it increases higher grades of achievement, and it increases student retention. Those are 3 things that I think are very important to remember throughout this presentation. So here are the 10 high impact practices. The first one being first year experience and seminars. The second being common intellectual experiences, learning communities, writing intensive courses, collaborative assignments and projects, undergraduate research, diversity in global learning, service learning, internships, capstone courses, and projects. And with this, we're going to focus heavily on 3. We're going to talk about common intellectual experiences, learning communities, and service learning. So before we get into each one of those individually, here are the general benefits of high impact practices. They help students develop deeper critical learning skills. They lead to greater class engagement and retention among undergrads. It helps improve students' confidence both in and out of the classroom. It leads to higher grades achieved and improves students' ability to process and retain information and transfer that information to hands-on skills. Now, I want to preface this here. High impact practices are only effective if done well. It takes time and it takes dedication to do these correctly, but I think we can do them within the office. So the first high impact practice that I want to implement is a learning community. Now, definition of a learning community is a group of students who engage in a common topic with the hope that it engages students with big questions that extend beyond the classroom. Now, I understand Clayton State already has 2 learning communities or theme communities with the Barbershop Initiative and Empower Her Initiative. Those are 2 great programs, and they lay the foundation for an additional program that I think that Clayton State can implement. And that is the Service Initiative. And the purpose here is that students will then, who enjoy community service, will live in this community and do a certain number of hours each month of community service. That can be both on and off campus. This will allow them to make lifelong friends within the community. It will allow them to understand more about community, meet new campus partners, allow them to get off campus and really see what's out there they can get involved in. I think this would really benefit a lot of students who participate in this learning community. Going off that is our second high impact practice, which is all about service learning. Definition of service learning is experiential learning that involves students in a range of programs that benefit the community. Now, this could incorporate the learning community or the service initiative that I just talked about, or this could be a standalone program. This could be based off the programming model that we implement. And so students can partner with other organizations. RAs can partner with organizations on campus, whether that's a local blood drive or a community cleanup off campus. Students can partner with different programs on campus like the Partnering Academics and Community Engagement Program, or PACE as it's called on campus. Basically, students would go into the community both on and off campus and complete service hours. These can be programs that they do. The key here, though, is that afterwards they come back and they talk about how the service they just did relates to their majors. So, let's say we have a business major, a science major, and, chemistry major, and a sociology major. They all go out and they do work at a food pantry, and they come back. And they all talk about what they learned and how that their career goals and their classwork can relate to what they just did. I think that's very important to do, and it would allow for deeper understanding of oneself and deeper understanding of why it's important to do community service. And the benefits here are that students really get a chance to meet on-campus and off-campus partners. They get a chance to maybe find their niche, whether that's helping a group with a blood drive on campus or helping a local animal shelter. They can find areas to get more involved and potentially find their niche. The final high-impact practice I want to do or implement is a common intellectual experience. The definition of this is programs that combine broad themes between both curricular and co-curricular options. So the idea here is that we have the RAs find clusters of majors within their students. So, find all the business students of the residents, all the science majors, all the social sciences or liberal arts majors, and we plan programs directed towards them. So they could be study sessions, before a big test, or just general study sessions where they can all come and sit down and talk about what they're learning in class. People can ask questions of each other if they don't understand a topic. We can utilize the already existing group study areas. We can bring in the Laker Hall Success Center, their tutors or their professional staff to provide resources and study tips for each different major or cluster of majors. We can bring in professors even or TAs to come and talk to the students about different course topics they may be struggling with. And if the students all realize that they are struggling with the same topic, they can then go to the professor together during office hours or during class and say, hey, we don't understand this. Can you help us? Also, if they do get to understand more topics, then that will lead to more participation in class with them, answering questions or asking more questions. There's a lot that can happen here, and these can start right away, right off the bat with programming. Another thing here that I was thinking about is that we can also bring in the Career Center, and the Career Center can also talk about how each cluster of majors can look with the career-wise. They can talk about how, business majors, what kind of careers they can do, science majors, what kind of careers they can do, and they can provide resources to those students on how to get to those type of careers. So there's a lot that can be packed into these little kind of study sessions or programs. So now I want to shift gears and look at how we can foster students, to become more resilient and promote excellence. So what is resilience? And the American Psychological Association defines resilience as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. Now, I want to focus heavily on the significant sources of stress, as I want to look at the daily stressors that college students face. Now, this is not taking away from the unique experience students have in regards to adversity, trauma, tragedy, or threats, but I want to look at the day-to-day life of students and the stresses they face, whether it's academic, personal, or professional. So what is one model that we can implement to help foster resilience? And that's the SAVES model. The SAVES model is an acronym for these 5 things: social connections, attitudes, values, emotional acceptance, silliness, and humor. It's a model that's based off positive psychology and is designed to help students manage the stresses they face in college. Now, through all of these, though, there are different parts here that I want to talk about how I, as a student affairs professional, really implement this in my daily work. So how do I foster resilience? Well, I form mentorships with my resident assistants and my students. I sit down in my one-on-ones. We have lengthy conversations in the hallways or in the conduct office about what they want to do, what are their goals, how can I help them achieve those goals, what kind of questions they have, whether that's general life questions or academic questions. I do my best to try to help them. I do a lot to try to help promote a growth mindset. I challenge my students every day to do a little bit better than the day before, or to do a tougher program, or to engage with a tough resident. I don't just say, hey, go do this. I give them the resources to do it. We talk about ways that they can put on a tougher program, whether that's instead of doing a door-to-door program, instead of doing a bigger program that they have to hand out flyers and send out email reminders, things like that. I try to push them to do more by giving them the resources to do that more. I also give students the opportunity for self-reflection. This happens a lot in student conduct. Excuse me. I'm meeting with students with the ability to talk about goals and their future careers. And we talk about how their behavior in the incident models their goals. Does it help them achieve them or not? And by doing that, students really get to process their behavior and how they can really accomplish their goals, and that usually the behavior they're doing isn't going to help them achieve it. And so we try to work on ways on how we can better their behavior. Finally, I have an open door policy as well. An open door policy doesn't just mean that my door is always open in my office. It means that my phone's always on and I'm always available via texting or phone calls. I try my hardest to let my students know when I am free versus when I'm in a meeting, so they know, like, hey, I may not answer right away, but I will answer as soon as I can. And in doing so, I really promote this idea that students can talk to me about everything, from personal struggles to academic struggles to professional struggles. We talk about everything. And I may not have all the answers, but at least we're talking it out and really honing in on some of the bigger problems and then how we can overcome those together. I never let a student think they're alone in this situation. They always know they can come talk to me. And then finally, I create an environment where humor can be brought into the staff meetings and one-on-one interactions. My favorite story is that my staff bought me a unicorn onesie with the hope that I would wear it to staff meetings. I started wearing it to staff meetings. Not everyone, obviously, but I wore it to a couple. I wore it to a couple programs. It was kind of a fun thing that they did for me and that I could give back to them. We always had a good laugh about it. We always were telling jokes before staff meeting. We're trying to really have a positive mindset going into meetings so that they're more engaging in the meetings. They're more alert. They're more active. It really leads to just a better overall discussion. And that happens in my one-on-ones. It happens when I'm in the hallways. We're telling jokes to students. They're telling jokes to me. I really have found a good balance between professionalism and humor. And I think that has really let my staff do that with their students as well. So how do I promote excellence? Well, I promote excellence by demonstrating these 5 things within myself and within my community. I'm a mentor to my students. I share my feelings just as much as they share theirs to me. I create a welcoming environment. I have engaged with students every day in the halls. I walk up and down every day saying, hi, how you doing? I get to know a little bit about them. I try to remember if they have a big test coming up, I can remind them and wish them good luck. I try to remember, or I ask them afterwards how to go. And all the while, keeping a positive attitude. I think keeping a positive attitude is the key here to promoting excellence and doing all those other things. If I have a positive attitude, my staff will then emulate that positive attitude as well. They watch us. They watch us as hall directors. Excuse me. And if they are seeing us be negative, they will be negative as well. But if they see us be positive, they will emulate that. So I think if we in ourselves are excellent in our work and we try our hardest, the students are going to try their hardest as well, because the RAs will see that, and then the students will see the RAs do that. And I think that is really key here. I think it's a trickle-down effect that starts from the top with us showing that we are doing our best, and then the RAs will do their best, and then the students will do their best to emulate that. So to wrap up, in summary, we as an office here can increase academic progression, foster students' feelings of community belonging, and lead them to be more resilient and excellent. Now, I think through the high impact practices that I am implementing or would implement with the learning communities, service learning, and common intellectual experiences, Clayton State's toolbox would expand dramatically. Programming would expand, partner programming, partnerships on campus, all that would expand. And then finally, I think that through the implementation and the use of the SAYS model, we can foster and develop students' level of resilience and promote excellence throughout the campus. I want to thank you again for your time and consideration throughout this entire process. Again, this is all grounded in theory and background and research. So if you want to talk more about this or you want articles on this, feel free to ask me. I have tons of them from class. I'm more than happy to share whatever information I have to just better the students' experience on Clayton State's campus. Thank you again for your time and consideration throughout this whole process and for the role as residence director at Clayton State University. Thank you again and have a good day.